It is week 3 of hashtag Tradtober 2025, which means we're talking about the beloved dead. To me, that means talking about ancestors and the spirits of friends who have shuffled off this mortal coil. These are either people whom we knew in life, or else respected and venerated personal ancestors with whom we have forged our own special connection. I'm going to use this time to talk about and give honor to one of my own beloved dead. Her name was Penelope van Princis Stout. Penelope is one of several venerable and noteworthy women from whom I am directly biologically descended, and I very much regard her as the head of one of my family lines. In times of turmoil and hardship, I feel her like iron in my bones, giving me the strength and tenacity to persevere. Penelope's story includes elements that are legendary and some places are impossible to verify. So please know that what I'm about to share is not being retold as 100% verified fact. Like, have you ever noticed that there's always a disclaimer on this channel? I'm not sure if that's a feature or a flaw. I'm gonna go with it being a feature. So what I'm sharing tonight is what I've gleaned from my own research and a bit from my contact with the spirit of Penelope herself. Okay, so legend says that Penelope was from a noble Dutch family. Her surname was recorded as Van Prinsen or Van Princis. She fell in love with a British commoner named John Kent, according to the stories, which tells us nothing about him except that he was probably from the town of Kent in the UK. Her father forbade their union, which was predictable if she was actually highborn. Kent himself was likely a Puritan or other religious asylum seeker in the Netherlands, which wouldn't have made him an ideal match for a girl of Penelope's standing. They did what young people sometimes do, though, and they eloped. And they eloped hard, y'all. They hopped on a ship that was setting sail for New Amsterdam. Unfortunately for the young couple, she was about 15 or 16 at this time, so she was quite young. The ship was wrecked off of the coast. It was either wrecked or stranded off of the coast of what is now New Jersey as the result of a terrible storm. Mr. Kent and most of the other passengers drowned. In some versions of the story, he didn't drown, but he was so sick that he and she were left behind. Again, there's several different versions of this, so I'm sharing one. So in the version that I'm sharing, almost everybody drowned. Penelope was one of a handful of people who made it alive to the shore, where they were attacked by a group of Lenape folks who were not at all happy to see more colonizers landing on their shores. Can't really blame them. They killed and scalped the bedraggled Dutch and English flotsam, like every last one of them. Well, all but one, I guess. Penelope was grievously wounded, but she wasn't dead. She was partially scalped and partially disemboweled. But she was also really, really tough and probably more than a little bit lucky. She played dead until the coast was clear. Literally the coast. And then she dragged herself to a hollowed out tree where she hid. Let's just pause right here for promo Lorelei. Blatant self-promotion Lorelei popping in to blatantly self-promote like I do. Now, I know that I like spirit work, but did you know that I literally wrote a book about it? It's called The Witch's Key to the Legion, A Guide to Solomonic Sorcery, and it is a hefty compendium on the 72 spirits of the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Goetia. And it's a perfect place to start if you're curious about working with these spirits, but aren't really sure like where to start or if it's safe. It's also a great reference book for more experienced folks who are looking to expand or deepen their practice with spirit work. So this book is divided into 3 sections: a collection of philosophical essays and insights about goetic practice, a witchy grimoire with well-explained rituals, and a thorough spirit index that features all or almost all of the extant descriptions of these spirits from the early modern era, along with additional descriptions from me based on my own work with these spirits. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the shop on my website at laurelaiblack.com. Be sure to use discount code BladenBroom15 at checkout to get 15% off your order, just for being awesome and hanging out with me here on YouTube. So that's all I wanted to say. Here's current content Lorelei to continue with the whatever y'all are talking about today. I hope it's spirits. All right, back to the story. I'm not sure how long she thought she could live in a tree, but it wasn't more than a couple of days. And about that time, 2 Lenape scouts came back by and she made herself known to them. I guess she figured they'd either help her or kill her, and both options seemed okay to her by this point. She was in a pretty bad way. The legend says that the younger man absolutely wanted to kill her, but the elder man did not. The elder decided to bring her back to his home, tend to her wounds, and treat her as family. She basically lived with him as his daughter for a couple of years. And that arrangement likely would have continued, except that a couple of Dutch traders eventually established contact, saw Penelope, and wanted her to come back with them to New Amsterdam. Her Lenape benefactor said the choice was hers, and the legend says that he was actually surprised when she chose to leave and return to the people of her birth. I guess they had become quite close. But, I mean, in fairness, Penelope had suffered some pretty brutal treatment at the hands of the people she was likely still seeing on a daily basis. If the story is accurate, right? So she does go back to New Amsterdam. She's a woman of a wealthy upbringing, even if her father was not an actual prince, as his surname suggests. And she was hosted by other wealthy families in that area. And I'm guessing she made a thrilling dinner party guest. Talk about stories, right? It was actually at one of these dinner parties that she met Richard Stout, himself the son of a British nobleman who had a falling out with his own father over a girl that dear old dad said that he couldn't marry. So instead of eloping, though, Richard told Dad to stuff it, and he joined the merchant navy. He had just been released from service when he met Penelope. So these stubborn kids hit it off right away. They got married, and several years later, they moved across the bay with 5 other couples to the site of Penelope's shipwreck and subsequent attack. And it was at that basic location where they founded Middletown, New Jersey, with these other couples. She maintained good relations with her rescuer, who, according to legend, returned to warn her and her family of a planned attack some years later. She had a boatload of children and grandchildren, and she may have been in her late 50s or 60s when she bore her last baby. She had something like 400 living descendants at the time of her death, which, according to the legends, was at the age of 110 years old. Almost none of the variations of Penelope's story have much in the way of, corroborating historical records. That's a bummer to me. And it means that most of the facts of her life are likely not the facts at all. Many of the Stout descendants who wrote these stories were very selective in their retellings, glossing over Penelope and Richard's roles as colonizers and the family's history as enslavers. And to be clear, those bits Those bits are historical fact. And I'm not, how could I be, proud of them? But whatever else is true or untrue about Penelope's life, she was well known in her time and in the generations that followed her time for being tough, for being clever, loving, and maybe even a bit stubborn. She was a survivor, and the stories about her show that she was a survivor. She was resilient, and she lived a life that was worthy of legend. And yeah, I'm pretty proud to have a woman like that looking out for me and mine, reminding me that I am made of stern stuff. So here's to you, Penelope van Princis Stout. If you found tonight's video useful, inspiring, magical, informative, inspirational, I think I said that twice. Please bless me with the magic of the like button and tell your friends that good stuff is happening over here at Blade and Broom. Help me feed the spirit of the algorithm by clicking like and subscribe. And I'll see you here next week for more witchy goodness. Bye, friends.